Hello and welcome. I'm Joseph Hoffman, and in this tutorial, I'm going to share some tips for learning one of the most famous pieces of all time in the piano repertoire, the first movement of Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, Opus 27, number 2. And at the end of the tutorial, I will do a full performance of this movement. By the way, in this tutorial, we're going to work with the full original version of Moonlight Sonata's first movement, which is a late intermediate difficulty level. If you're looking for something easier, you can check out my early intermediate tutorial for a simplified version of Moonlight Sonata. All right, let's get started exploring this amazing piece. Now, when learning a new piece, always remember to check out your tempo indication, your clefs, your key signature, and time signature. So starting with tempo indication, adagio sostenuto. Adagio means slow, and sostenuto means sustained or legato. So we're going to play this slow and very legato. The clefs are treble and bass as we expect, and then 4 sharps tells us either E major or C sharp minor. How do we tell? Well, check out the first chord. Our left hand starts on a C sharp. The right hand is a C sharp minor, second inversion chord. So we know we're going to be in the key of C sharp minor. Finally, our time signature, cut time, tells us that Beethoven wants us to feel 2 beats per measure. And this is really important for getting the tempo right on this piece. If you feel 4 beats per measure, 1, 2, 3. If you're feeling that as your beat, it's going to be too slow and it's really gonna drag. You're gonna put your audience and yourself to sleep. But notice what happens when you feel 2 beats per measure. 1, 2. 1, 2. Now the beat is still slow and broad, but just changing that feel to 2 beats per measure instead of 4. And now it can move and breathe, but still have that adagio feel. 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. It's a subtle difference that can make a big difference in the feel and the sound. Now, one secret to playing Moonlight Sonata artistically and beautifully is to think in 3 distinct layers. And if you can keep track of these 3 layers in your mind, you will play it so much more beautifully and artistically. These 3 layers are, number 1, the bass. The bass needs to be solid, mellow, and moody. It creates the foundation for the harmony. And often the bass line is its own secondary melody. Notice here at the beginning, the right hand is just repeating the same broken chord over and over, but the left hand has this downward moving line, which is its own kind of melody. So bring out the bass line when you see it moving like that, and let it have its own melody and its own shape. So, layer 1 is the bass. Layer 2 is the accompaniment, which are these broken chords. Now, the accompaniment helps create the mood and the feel of Moonlight Sonata. But of the 3 layers we're going to talk about, it is the least loud. It needs to be very subtle and in the background, as gentle and just flowing. These are the ripples of the moonlight on the lake. We're trying to create a really subtle mood here. So don't. Note that Beethoven marks here right at the start, sempre pianissimo, always pianissimo, he says. E senza sordini. We should talk about this. Senza sordini means without dampers. This is Beethoven's way of saying use the damper pedal. It's by using the damper pedal, which is your far right pedal on the piano, That lifts the dampers, so the dampers allow the strings to vibrate freely. So, sempre piano, always pianissimo, and with that damper pedal. Between the bass and the accompaniment, let the bass be a little bit louder than your accompaniment. The accompaniment is the softest. And then we get the third layer, which actually doesn't start until measure 5. You'll notice we've got these broken chords for the accompaniment, and then when you see these stems up in the treble clef, that is your melody line. And here's the main theme. Ba, ba, ba. That's the main theme of Moonlight Sonata. So that melody needs to sing out above the bass and above the broken chords. How do you do that? You've got to play both the accompaniment with these fingers 1, 2, 3 and the melody all in the same hand. This is a pretty advanced piano technique called voicing. You're going to play these notes down here as soft as you possibly can while using your pinky to make those melody notes really sing out. Notice how softly I'm playing these while that pinky has to really dig in. It's very tricky to do. Here's what I want you to try to master this. Let your right hand play the melody all by itself, while the left hand is going to help out by playing these notes for you. Try this on your piano. You're going to go bum, ba, bum, and play the left hand as soft as you possibly can, while the right hand isn't fortissimo, but we want those notes to sing out. And then what you're going to do, once you like the sound, doing it with your left hand helping, then let your right hand play all the notes, but try to copy the sound you just made. So it's like you're imitating yourself. And if you're not totally happy with the sound, go back to using your left hand until your right hand can copy it and you're happy with it. It may take 50 to 100 tries. Like I said, this is an advanced skill. You're really just trying to ping that pinky, get it to sing out while you're playing these as gently as you possibly can. And trust me, this is like patting your head and rubbing your stomach when you're a kid. It's like very hard to get the coordination, but so worth it because you need that melody to sing out while the accompaniment is just subtle as can be. It makes all the difference. Otherwise you get, and I hear beginner pianists play it like that and it's just ugly and I don't want to listen to it. You've got to master the skill of voicing where you make these accompaniment notes soft while that melody sings out above it. Notice how I'm bringing out that top note way louder than the accompaniment notes. Now here, because that's a really big stretch, even for my very big hands, what we're going to do is the left hand's going to cross over for that B. Watch. Left hand cross over and then back down for the next bass note your left hand has to play. Now another tip for making this beautiful is to think in phrases. Don't get lost in all the notes because there are a lot of notes, but only a few notes really matter. And those are those melody notes. And we've got to find where is the phrase. We've got this opening theme, which is a pretty short phrase, but now here comes a longer phrase. Watch. Here it comes. It goes to there, goes to there. Follow where the melody is going, and that's the end. See how I stretched out the end of that phrase? So it feels like we've arrived. That's called a cadence, where a melody comes to rest on a note. And And see how I kind of helped us feel that landing by slowing down just a little bit, and I built up to that high note, and then I feel like I plant on this note, and then we let it keep moving. Now, another little trick in this piece to help bring out the beauty is to notice when Beethoven does something interesting harmonically. For example, here in measure 10, Beethoven plays a little trick on us. We've been on this E major harmony in measure 9. Then what does he do? Out of the blue, he just switches to E minor. E major to E minor. That's a bit unusual for a composer to just suddenly change a major chord to a minor chord. But hey, that's part of Beethoven's genius, is doing some unexpected things. So when he does those unexpected things, play into it and let the listener know that you notice that. Don't just plow through E minor, E major, E minor, who cares? No, what you can do is linger just a tiny bit. See how I stretch that out to let the listener know, yes, something special is happening here. Don't just plow through. Let it settle into our ears. Then here comes the melody. Bring out that melody. Now notice I did a little crescendo there. There's not a crescendo marked in the music, so why did I take the liberty of doing that? Well, Beethoven didn't give us a lot of dynamics in this, but we're still going to put them in. We're going to do some crescendos and decrescendos, but all within this world of pianissimo. But within pianissimo, we're going to take some liberties and do some swells. Notice the bass line was the interesting thing there, and that's why I brought out that bass and did a little crescendo, because I love those half steps going down, and I wanted to build the tension there. All right, so looking for those opportunities to add some shape, some phrasing, and build the tension. Going on to measure 13. Here comes another cadence. See? That is the end of a phrase, and so I want to feel like I've planted there. Notice that note has a stem down and a stem up. Beethoven does that to tell you that this note is playing double duty. It's part of the accompaniment pattern, and it's part of the melody. That stem up is what he uses to show the melody notes. And so you're going to play that note a little extra loud because it's doing double duty. I mean, don't pound it, but really plant on it firmly so our ears hear that as a melody note. And then you can carry on with accompaniment softly, softly. Ooh, another harmonic shift. We went from B minor to major this time, and now ping this melody note. And I love the tension in that. He's got an octave plus a half step, which has so much tension in it. So really make sure your pinky pings that note to bring out that tension. Listen. And then the left hand gets to have some fun there with a little bit of melody time in the spotlight. Here we go again. Left hand. And then back off. Then, this isn't marked in the music, but I like to do this next one even softer, like an echo. So, triple piano maybe. A longer phrase here, so let it move. Building the tension to the cadence. Here comes another cadence. See how I planted on that note? Bring out the melody always. And notice here, Beethoven gives us a crescendo, so we're going to build up 3, 4. Then diminuendo, bring it back down. And notice I slowed the tempo a bit too. Whenever you're speeding up or slowing down, that's called rubato, where you're stretching the tempo, and that's totally appropriate to do with Beethoven, especially in his stuff that he's starting to write in a more romantic style. This was composed in 1801, right at the border between the classical era, and a lot of Beethoven's earlier stuff does have a more classical sound. And then you see this transition where he's starting to pave the way for a new era in music. And a lot of times Beethoven is credited with pushing music into what we call the Romantic era, where there's so much more emotion and color and some really, he broke some of the rules. Even just this movement, starting a sonata with a slow, moody movement, was unheard of. Sonatas are supposed to start with a fast, peppy movement. Well, Beethoven was breaking some rules and trying to set some new trends. Now, part of interpreting romantic music means you can play with the tempo a little bit. Sometimes we're going to move it forward. And you notice as I came up on measure 28, I stretched the tempo a little bit as I did this diminuendo. But then I'm going to pick it back up. Now in this section, it's really important to notice that the stem up notes are the melody, the stem down notes are the accompaniment, and a lot of these notes are playing double duty. So bring out those melody notes and super soft on the accompaniment notes. So the melody, let that melody sing out. Here's measure 28. Ping, ping, ping. Notice I'm going to ping all the melody notes. And then super soft on the accompaniment. Then we get to these really amazing chords. These are diminished 7 chords, one of Beethoven's favorite go-to chords when he wants to create some tension. Now, when I've taught this to students in the past, this is the section that they often struggle the most with. But it doesn't have to be that way. The reason they struggle is they just see all these crazy looking notes jumping around, and it just overwhelms because they're learning it note by note. But there's a better way. Beethoven is using a specific chord. And if you recognize which chord he's using, it's all just inversions and arpeggiation of the same chord. So try these steps with me on your piano. I promise this will be a piece of cake. Okay, so let's start in measure 32. And I want you to think in groups of 4 notes. And we're going to practice using what I call the block chord technique. Instead of playing the notes one at a time, which again, then your brain starts to think one note at a time. But these are just chords. So we're going to practice them as chords. Play this chord with me. And we're going to use the same fingers that we're going to use when we play them one note at a time. And then our fingers will just learn the right place to go. Notice we've got 2 black keys, 2 white keys. This is called a diminished 7 chord. It's fully diminished. It's a really cool chord, and play it with fingers 1, 3, 5. Notice 2 black, 2 white, and then we're going to flip it. We're going to put the 2 black keys on top. See, it's just an inversion of the same chord. Come up now, 2 white on the bottom, 2 black on top. So play this chord now. We're going to invert it one more time and put the 2 white on top. Pause if you want to practice that a few more times. I want you to be able to do it in your sleep. It should just feel easy. Your fingers should know exactly where to go. Step 2 is going to be play it as a block and then play the 1, 3, 2, 5 pattern. Now you try. Then you're going to invert it and do it again. Play it as a block and then 1, 3, 2, 5. Or if you prefer 1, 3, 2, 4, some people prefer a 4 there. Doesn't matter if you use 4 or 5, but be consistent. Try that. Then we're going to invert it again. And remember, this is the same chord we played down here. We're back to where we started pretty much, but an octave higher. Play it as a block, and then do 1, 3, 2, 5. Now, pause the video, and I'd like to have you do that on your own, like 3 or 4 times, until you feel like this is boring, this is easy. Trust me, do this step, pause, and practice that 3, 4, 5 times, even 10 times, until it feels easy. Then press play, and I'll give you the last step. Now, it's time for the magical part. If you've done these steps and you did it until it felt easy, now all you do is you take out playing it as a block, but think in those blocks. You're going to think, okay, my hand is just moving through these positions. And boom, you're playing the notes. Now you're playing measure 32. Pause to try that on your own, then press play, and we'll check out the next measure. Did it work? Isn't that amazing? If you think in blocks, it's so much easier. Now, in the next measure, we're also going to think in blocks. Now we're in a C sharp minor first inversion chord, and I want you to use fingers 1, 2, 4, and 5 and play it all as a block. And then we have a little bit of a weirdness where there's just a 2-note block here, 1 and 3, and then we have another first inversion. This is the same block we had down here, but now up an octave. So again, 3 different blocks. This block, play this on your piano, then this block with fingers 1 and 3, and then one more of these. And then, step 2, we're going to play it as a block, and then play it broken, play it as a block, play it broken, play it as a block, play it broken, and then we add these 2 extra notes. Notice in the music, this is actually a group of 6 notes to make up for that block of 2. Okay, so pause the video and practice that as blocks, and then block, play the notes, block, play the notes, then press play to go on. And if you've done that step, then you're ready to just put it all together. Pause if you'd like some time to work on that. Otherwise, let's go on and look at measure 34, which is back to another diminished 7 chord. We've got C sharp, F double sharp, E, A sharp. Again, when my students try to learn this one note at a time, it takes them forever, and they feel so frustrated. But look, it's just a diminished 7 chord that is going to keep inverting. This time we have black, white, white, black. So 2 whites in the middle, 2 blacks on the edges, and then just think of inverting this chord. We're going to skip up to here next, where now it's the whites on the outside and the blacks on the inside. So again, start here, play this as a block, then play this as a block with 2 blacks in the middle, 2 whites on the outside, and then it inverts one more time to the same chord we started on, 2 blacks on the outside, 2 whites in the middle. Now, do you remember the steps? We play block, then break it, play it as a block, then break it, play it as a block, then break it, and then just put it together. And boom, now you have measure 34. Pause if you'd like some time to work on that on your own. And when you're ready, we will take a look at measure 35 next. Guess what? It's another diminished 7 chord. This time we have F sharp, B sharp, A, D sharp. It's the D sharp diminished 7 chord, in case for all you music theory lovers out there. And, well, actually, technically, it's the B sharp. The root of this one is B sharp, D sharp, F sharp, A is how it's spelled. But we're in inversion up here. And again, we have blacks on the outside, 2 whites on the inside, and just remember that pattern, and then it's going to shift up to here, and then it's going to shift up to here, which is the same one we started on down here, but now an octave higher. So again, block, 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 and then we just break it up. Boom, 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 boom. Well, play the block first. Da, 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 da. Play the block. Da, 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 da. This is step 2. Okay, and that's measure 35. Then you'll just put it all together. And remember, these are triplets. So triplet, 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 triplet. Then when we come down, it's going to be these same blocks, but we're going to add in this 3-1, and then shift back to this block, 5-2-3-1, and then shift to this block, 5-2-3-1. We're going to keep going down this time, 5-2, it spills into measure 37, and then one more block down here, 5-2-3-1, and then the pattern's going to change a little bit, 5-2-3-1's going to go to the C sharp, and notice Beethoven is bringing in some melody notes again, this time with stem down. So we're going to bring out these stem down notes. See, I'm playing those quite loud, and that's one reason I use my thumb there on those notes, because you can be nice and firm and really help those notes sing out. So let's take a look at this. Here's measure 37. Bring out those notes. Then right here. See that surprise? Oh, I love that D natural. That's the Neapolitan chord for you music theory nerds out there. The Neapolitan chord in any minor key, if you take just a half step above your tonic and build a major chord on that, that's called the Neapolitan. Beethoven loves using the Neapolitan. It has such a soulful, just juicy sound to me. And so I like to bring it out as a surprise by making it, I hesitate just a tiny bit, and I make it a little softer than the one before where it was D sharp. See, let's back up to measure 38. I'm going to play this one louder. And then this one, I back off of it and I hesitate just a moment to kind of play into that surprising Neapolitan sound. And then I keep it moving. Whenever you slow down with rubato, you want to make up for it by then moving forward again. Otherwise, the song, the piece, will really start to drag. Now, backing up a little bit, once you've got all the notes down, remember to give each one of these measures a shape. We're going to see how I kind of build up a little bit of a subtle crescendo, let it swell, and then I relaxed at the end. In music, you always want to build tension and then release. Build up again, release, build a little more. See how I stretch the tempo at the top there? It's like we're going up, and then we come back down. So I'm playing with the momentum. I want to, if I'm at the top of a mountain, I'm going to stop and enjoy the view from the summit. That's kind of what I'm doing here. Don't just march through. Enjoy the beauty. And then I'm going to make up for that by kind of building momentum down. Bring out those melody notes. Then a little surprise here. Then move it along. Here comes a cadence. So I'm going to slow down a little bit. See how I slowed down there so our ears can appreciate that transition moment, because that's the moment we go back to the main theme from the start. And so there in the last two beats of 41, I really stretch that out and then I move it again. And now we've got the main theme back again. It's hard to talk and play at the same time. Now don't be tricked, because here, right there on beat 2, that's where it changes. It feels like, oh, this is just like before. And this is where your memory will be challenged when you play this, to remember that they're on beat 2. Remember, before we just stayed here and then we changed to that E minor, but here we invert the chord, and Beethoven's going to do something a little different this time. Crescendo, but only up to piano. There's the Neapolitan chord. Do you recognize that? Beautiful, huh? Shift to major, then really ping that top note and let us feel that painful tension right there. Back off, then like an echo. That's another measure that my students sometimes struggle with right here in measure 57. And so once again, let's use the block chord technique. Because again, if you think note, 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 you'll just get lost in the notes. Think in chords. Let's look at the last beat of measure 56 and just practice them as blocks. This is an E major chord. E major going to this is a major, major 7 chord in inversion, but don't worry about that. I want you to notice the pattern here. Let's look at just the right hand. Going from chord to chord, notice these outer notes are going to move down while the inner notes stay the same as we go from the last beat of measure 56 to the first beat of measure 57. Notice those outer notes move down. Then as we go from beat 1 to beat 2, this time the inner notes move down while the outer notes stay the same. See that pattern? Outer notes move, inner notes move. Outer notes move, inner notes move. So those 5 beats in a row, that's the pattern. And once you recognize that pattern, turn something hard into something not so hard. The left hand also is going to do skip down, step up, skip down, step up. It also has a pattern. And then just practice that as blocks and think about those motions. Outer notes move, inner notes move. Outer notes move, inner notes move. Trust me, it will make it so much easier to learn. Let's go on. And then another crescendo. Here comes maybe the most important cadence in the whole piece, because to me, this is the beginning of the end of the piece. This is the cadence where I feel like now Beethoven goes into what we could call a coda, where now we're just kind of thoughtfully reminiscing on this theme. He puts the theme down in the left hand now. So again, keep the right hand as soft as you possibly can, and now you're bringing out this melody note in the bass line. And again, use these try to find the groups of notes in measures 62, 63, just like we did before. These are also just C minor triads and B sharp diminished 7 chords in inversions. Find the blocks, find those groups, and that will make this so much faster to learn. Let your right hand come down and help out in this clef. So notice the left hand low C sharp is a whole note. So you're going to keep holding that note down the whole measure while your right hand is coming down here. And then your left hand takes over on that note all by itself. So listen to that one, starting in measure 66. softer right hand helps out. As soft as you can possibly play. Now, I'd like to perform the entire piece for you, and I'd like you to notice how I use dynamics and tempo to help build and release the tension within each phrase. And I hope you enjoy my performance of Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, first movement. Thanks for learning all about Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata first movement with me today. Please check out the links below for sheet music, and also be sure to check out our Hoffman Academy article, where you can learn all about the history and other interesting background about this famous piece. Happy practicing, and see you next time.
Hey, did you hear about the new restaurant on the moon?
No.
Well, the food was good, but there wasn't much atmosphere.
Here's one for you.
Okay,
How does the moon cut its hair?
I don't know.
Eclipse it!